It's mail time.
And we are live. Welcome to another episode of Mailbox Monday. I'm your host, Duncan Harrison, here with my main man, Jay Tyler. We are here to answer all your career questions on this beautiful Monday while you're eating your lunch. And so today we're going to get into some of the questions. Jay Tyler, go ahead and take it away.
This is a different type of Mailbox Monday, Dunk. This is not necessarily a Mailbox Monday where someone actually gave us an email to address or a situation to address. But I think what we're going to hit on today is something that, we can give people strategy on how to keep their job, right? Or how to move, between jobs, in terms of the questions that you have to ask when it comes to interviewing, all right? So this is a special edition of the top 5 difficult interview questions that you're going to have to answer during a standard interview, all right? This is different, not a request from someone, but we think that this is something that we can give y'all some free game as much as we can. So, Dunk, should we just jump right into these top 5? Not in any particular order, but just the top 5.
Yes, sir.
All right. So this question is funny, Dunk, because I think you have a lot of experience with this question. I'm just joking with you.
Let me sit up.
Yeah, let's just get live for a second. You know what I'm saying? No, I'm joking with you. But the first question is, were you ever fired? And this is in an interview, right? The interviewer is going to ask, you this if you're on an interview. Were you ever fired? What do you say when that happens? So, Doug, I'm going to let you kick this one off. You know what I mean? Let the viewers know what your thing is. I'm going to jump in as well.
Well, yeah, I think that's actually a very good question. Was I ever fired? Well, I always say, I've probably had about, 9-10 jobs in my lifetime. I've been fired about 9-10 times, in my lifetime. But I think that, that's a very interesting question,
It is.
for an interviewer to ask. And so I think that if an interviewer ever asks that question, it's something that, I would probably actually redirect the question, right? I would probably, actually focus more on my skills or, more on what I have to offer to the company and not something that, maybe actually happened. Justin, if you to say, hey, were you ever fired from a job? My response probably, hey, that's a great question. And I get why you asked that, right? But I think that, I want to focus more on, what I can do for your company and what I have to offer, what I can bring, really to this position. Right. And then, I don't know the legalities. I'd actually have to check that, for an employer to actually ask about your previous employment.
Yeah, I think that's a tricky question too. And again, I don't think this question comes up often. And especially for me, I haven't never really heard this question before. But in terms of reflecting with some of my clients that I work with and other people, this question does come up. But no one really challenges it. You know what I mean? In terms of validity and if it's legality as well. So I think, for me, I'm kind of honest with it, but you never want to be really honest in this question, especially if you were fired for like incompetence or, some other things like that. It's all about just how you are telling the truth without telling everything, So, for example, if you're were fired for incompetence, you really didn't do the job well, like you were just terrible at it, things like that. There's certain ways you could say like, hey, maybe, that did happen, but this is why it happened. Okay. So for example, if you're fired for incompetence, it's simply, just saying like, hey, when I was hired, this is what I was here for. But the position description changed over time, and wasn't able to reflect what their expectations were for me in that position because of that change. So you could say that, hey, it happened, but you don't have to, really tell them every single thing that happened. You know what I mean? But that just is one of the reasons. There's so many different type of reasons and so many different type of ways that you can answer this. And you could be truthful about it, but not truthful in the sense of telling them every single detail. So I think, Duncan, me and you and I are a little bit different in terms of how to attack that. But especially if it's a small industry, especially if it's, you know, in the same town, you never know. People might know who you are and know who you connected to. They already might know the skinny, like the mafia. The mafia already know. They say, where were you when this happened? The mafia already knows. They may already know what's going on, depending on how small the organization is, how small the industry is, how small or big the town is, right? In terms of your expertise and who has the same skills as you. What do you think about that, Dom?
Yeah, so I think that honestly, it's a very tough question. A question that I don't think I've ever asked in an interview, nor have I had to face had to face in an interview, right? Because I'm going to look at the person's resume, really going to look at the person's skills, because you never know, right? I've been an employee, for 30 years now. Worked for a couple of different organizations, and I can say, like, sometimes you're not always happy, where you are or what's going on in the organization. I've worked for organizations where, I'm not going to say organizations where, individuals, that supervise me, just, I can't even say weren't happy with my performance, or just weren't happy with, me being in the position that I was in. Right. And I think I'm a great employee, right. Who wouldn't want to have, a Duncan Harrison, in their organization.
You should feel that way.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And so, and I think it's, I'm always about really being your authentic self. Right. Especially when you come to an interview. So, I mean, if you were fired, I mean, yeah, you can say, yes, look, listen, and this is what happened. Right. But this is what I've learned. Right. From, from this, from that experience. And this is how I've grown, right? Because you may not want to lie, because I think, as you said, Justin, as you pointed out, they may already know, what happened or why you were fired, because they may know the individuals at that organization, and they just want to see if you're going to be truthful about it, and and where you are, I guess, in your life at that point.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the last thing I would say about it. Be reflective on it and have a positive spin on anything that looks negative to you. Right. If it's negative and the situation is, just spin it positive. Like, well, I've been reflective on it and I learned this, in this situation. I've been implementing this in my new role, or whatever it may be. But usually people don't ask you why you were fired. If you're ever fired, it's like, why did you leave? Or why are you looking at other jobs at this time? You usually get those type of questions as well. That's similar to this question. All right. So let's jump it off of number 2. Right. What is your current salary? So if you're in New York, this doesn't apply to you. All right, because New York, you can't ask that question. But
I think I believe that's also it might actually be illegal across the board at this point.
Okay, because I know New York, when I was there, that definitely came out at the time before I moved to Qatar. That definitely was there. So, you might know a little bit more about it than me, since you're still in the States. But this question does come up, though, because people really want to know. So even if they don't ask you in the interview, they're going to ask you in the application.
Right.
It could ask you that as well. So how do you answer that question, Duncan? If that was put on your lap to answer, how would you answer that question?
Definitely. So I think that it is illegal in New Jersey, right? So you can no longer ask that question. So people cannot ask you, what your previous salary was. But once again, I just think it's a bad it's a bad question for employers to ask. And if I am an employee, or I'm sorry, if I'm interviewing for the job, and if an individual asks me, what was my previous salary, I think I'm going to talk more about what the current market trends are. What's the salary that I am looking for, and my skill sets, to back that salary up. Right.
Yep. Definitely.
And so, it's really don't judge me on my past, look at me, for the future.
Yeah, look at my glow up right now. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think, one thing is, if you put it on the application, you don't want to go against what you put in the application. You know what I mean? That's just counterintuitive, right? So if you put that you're looking for 85,000, right? Or that's what you made before, but then you stunt and say you made 110, in the interview, they're going to see that as a red flag, right? If they're competent,
Right. But employers shouldn't even have that in their application. I think, when we talk about pay equity, biases, gender biases. I mean, this is a bias that, that is definitely a red flag if you see an employer asking you know
I
uh
agree.
what your previous salary is, or even what your desired salary is.
Mm,
So let's like, listen here, look, what's the position, how much are you going to pay as an organization, and then I'll make the decision from
mhm.
there, whether I want to actually apply for the position or not, right?
Right.
And then if I believe that I want more, I'll ask you, hey, if you're paying, 110,000, I think, I'm worth 120,000. Maybe I'll say, hey, can you do 120,000? If you say no, then I have a decision to make to say, okay, well, I'll stay at the 110.
Right.
Otherwise I can say, I'll go with the 120. But I think, when we look at the world now, there's so many more different ways to bring in income outside of the traditional 9 to 5 avenues, right? You have the Uber Eats, you have Uber Eats, Uber, all these,
YouTube.
YouTube, right? You have YouTube,
Right.
you could
Gigs.
do gigs, Twitch, stream. So I don't,
Right.
have to the Twitch, or gaming. So I don't
Yeah.
have to, really go to an office and sit there from 9 to 5 and really haggle. I think it's the onus is now on the employer to attract the best talent, and really not, you know, um, for the employee to kind of beg for, to be with that organization.
Yeah, I'll close it out with this too. Like honestly, it's 2021. Jobs should already, or organizations should already include what the salary is for the position, because too many times people go in expecting that the salary is going to be a certain way. It's not discussed. You get to the second interview, third interview, and you find out that you're not aligned with what they're looking to pay you, and it's
Right.
just a colossal waste of time. But if you are forced to kind of state your number, maybe they are giving you the job, right? And they want to know how much you want to get paid. Definitely give them a range, right? And if you know the range, you did your research on Glassdoor, you asked around the people that may know, you're just looking at what other people may get in that range or in that region, then you can come up with a nice range. And then anywhere that they give you in that range, you should be, pretty happy with it. And the worst that they can say is no. But let me tell you something. If a HR or a talent manager, talent acquisition manager, or a hiring manager wants you, they'll find a way to get you, within reason. Okay.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Within reason. So just remember that. So if they say no or whatever like that, it may not be a no forever. They just have to go back to the drawing board, or to try to figure it out. And if not, your worth, you can step, or you can stay there and build that worth later, build that compensation later. So let's move on to number 3. This is similar to what we talked about before, but why are you choosing to leave your employer at this time? Question number 3. Why are you choosing to leave your employer at this time? That's also a tricky question as well, because the best time to get a job is when you have a job, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, Dunk, how would you answer that question if that was proposed to you? Because it probably will be in the interview.
So definitely. So I think for me, once again, is I call it being real interviews, right? Because I really want to know who that person is. So although if you read if you read the literature on this, most people will tell you that the way that you want to respond to that question, is that you want to leave. You're leaving possibly because you're looking for some new growth opportunities, right? Maybe you've grown as far as you can in the organization. Maybe you're looking for a new experience, new change, new change in the position. But I think overall, I think it's really about you being real with that interviewer. But
Mm-hmm.
on the flip side, though, you don't want to bash your previous employer, like, oh,
Never,
I'm leaving
never,
because my manager's not doing this, or my
never.
manager not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Sister Johnson, she'll never do nothing, all that different stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because as an interviewer, I'm going to think, well, wait a minute. Well, if you're bashing your previous employer, are you going to begin to
On me,
bash
right?
us too, right? And is that a
Mm-hmm.
headache that I want to bring into my culture, right? Are you going to
Right.
be a good cultural fit, for this organization? And that's really what's most important, and what I'm trying to learn by
Mm-hmm.
asking you this question. Why the transition? Why do you think you're going to be a good fit, in
Right.
this organization moving from another organization?
Yeah. Definitely, definitely. Good old Sister Johnson will get you every time, right,
Yeah,
Dunk?
right. Yeah, with
Get you
Sister
every
Johnson
time.
there, right? What Sister Johnson wear?
Right.
Okay, did she drive or did she ride the bus there?
Right, right, right. So Yeah, I think I'm gonna answer this a little bit different. I actually want to give a couple of real examples of what you can say. Again, with this one, it could be a couple of different reasons. It's really best to be authentic, but let's just say it's personal reasons, right? Like, why are you leaving? And, you want to say it in a way that makes sense. So one of the things that you could say is, regarding the organization, I have moved up as far as I could go. The person above me was somewhat new in the position, so he or she will be in that position for some time. Thus, there is nowhere I can go at this time, and I want to grow in my role, right? Or grow out of my role into a new position. So that's something that you could say as an example. If someone's ahead of you and they're not leaving, right, and there's no opportunity there, that's a good reason to say, personally, that's why I'm trying to leave. Sometimes it's company changes, right? So the company could be going restructuring, downsizing, or what they call right sizing. Liquidation, mergers and acquisitions. So that may not be a part of your future planning, right? It's too much movement for company change. So that's something else that you could say as well. Maybe it's location. Maybe you're trying to move. You're trying to find the next, job for you, but it's not in that area that you're in. So you could say, hey, the organization is relocating to a different area, or, my spouse or my partner is seeking relocation. So therefore, I'm looking for new employment in the area. Okay, so there's certain things that you could say. It's just a matter of saying it in the right way with not going too deep into detail. Okay, you tell them without telling them. Just give them what they need to know, and then let them ask you any other questions to follow up on that as well. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So number 4, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses or areas of concern? People spin it, any other type of way. So Duncan, how would you answer this question, number 4?
So definitely. So I when we talk about my strengths, I would just definitely I would lay my strengths out there. Here are what are my strengths. When we talk about my weaknesses, I would I don't use the word weakness. I actually say my areas where it's room for growth. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't actually, say that I have any weaknesses. I say, these are the areas where, I can improve, or these are the areas, that I have room for growth.
Right.
And I would then talk about those areas, but I'd also, once again, put a positive spin on, on those areas. So, right. So I think, for me, one of my areas of, where I have some room for growth is, definitely organization. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that, because I get so, down to the trenches, sometimes I do get, lost in the sauce. But when I, do come out of those trenches and get reorganized, it actually makes me stronger and more effective, to move forwards.
Yeah, definitely. I like that, the personal aspect of, what maybe the area of concern or room for growth would be. So I think for me, and when I get this question, it's more about, sometimes I'm impatient. When I'm working a certain speed and I'm giving it, a certain, way, I want other people to work on that same speed, in the same plane. And so sometimes I would tell, employer, hey, I get, impatient with team members, but I also, realize that not everyone is me. And that's what makes diversity so great for a team. We have to all work together and appeal to each other's strengths. So that's what I would say, to spin something that's negative into a positive right away,
Right.
Also too, for me, I like to work. I'm a worker, I like to work 14, 15, 16 hours a day. So therefore I could say, hey, I really suck at, work-life balance,
Okay.
but you're going to get someone who's going to give you, 40 hours, 50 hours a week, not a problem at all, whatever it is to get the job done. What I'm doing now is working on, some of these other hobbies and things to balance my life a little bit, to be refreshed when I come in each week. So that's
And
what
so,
I would say.
I think that I just want to dig a little bit deeper into
Yeah.
this as well, right?
Yeah.
So are these, so sometimes when I see individuals, especially individuals that aren't, if you're not recruiters, if you're not in talent act, well, talent acquisition, it's talent act,
Yeah. Yeah.
that they kind of have these boilerplate, ideas of interviewing, right? So,
Okay.
one of the things that I always see is like, people they just go right down their resume, which
Yes.
is getting ready to become obsolete, and they, and they look at like,
Debatable.
right, and they look at your work history. Well, why were you out of
Mm-hmm.
jobs? And it's kind of like these boilerplate things. And so
Mm-hmm.
is the strength weakness question just kind of a boilerplate question, right? Is that really getting to the root of what you want to know, right? From the
Well,
individual.
Well, Dunk, I do think it has purpose because I do think people want to see how you think on your toes. How much do
But
you know about
but,
yourself,
but you could
right?
do that. Well, but you could do that with any question, in a
But
sense, right?
this is true. But this is another aspect of it where I think people, are saying, look, I want to see from themselves how do they assess their worth? How do they assess who they are as professionals? So I do
Mm-hmm.
think it's some value in it. But yeah, you're right. You can kind of go through the resume and still get value from different questions. But one more question is not going to hurt anybody. That's the way I look at it from what their perspective would be going through an interview. But I don't know.
Let me ask you this interview question.
Yeah, yeah.
Tell me a joke.
Tell you a joke.
Yes.
Who put me on trial right now? Right? Who put me on trial? I was like, well, tell me your favorite comedian. That's what I would say.
Okay. So let's
Right,
see.
and then
Okay,
yeah,
I'll Bernie Mac.
Bernie Mac. So then I would give a joke that would be in the Bernie Mac type fashion. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
All right.
You know, so
That's a little risky.
but some of these questions, right? See, this is a good exercise because
Right.
sometimes you get these crazy questions,
No, definitely.
right?
Definitely.
Crazy questions have nothing to do with what you're interviewing for. However, they want to see how you think on your toes.
Right.
So if someone said to me, like, okay, that same question, and then they said, okay, well, what comedian do you like? I like the way he thinks because he's now trying to tailor the experience to who I like. You know what I mean?
Okay.
That's pretty dope to me. I would like that.
Okay.
I don't know if you would like that, but at least you're seeing someone think on their toes and being witty or being responsive, right?
Right.
So I don't know. Could be good for that position to think on your toes. You never know.
Okay. You still didn't tell me a joke, but
No, Bernie Mac cursed a lot. You know what I'm saying? This is a family friendly show. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
definitely.
if it ain't about the milk and cookies, I don't know what to tell you right now.
That's okay.
You know what I mean?
Good one. Good one.
All right, cool. I think because I'm light skinned, so I can't answer those questions, right? I can't give him the joke. You know what I mean? I need to do like Pierre from Players Club or somebody, right? The same vein. Right. But I digress, and I'm joking, right? So let's go to number 5, right? The last question. How long have you been looking for a job? Tell me about your job search so far. Now, that's a question that you could get, you could not get. I think that's a good question, though. Have you ever gotten that question, Dunk, from an interviewer before?
No, nobody's really. No one's asked me how long I've ever looked for a job. Right. I think that's something new. And I think it's an interesting question, right? So it's if I'm thinking about it from the interviewer perspective, so what are you trying to find out, right? So
yes,
are you trying to see if I'm stale, if my shelf life, if my shelf life has been there, or if I'm hot and somebody else is going to pick me up. So what exactly is the interviewer trying to get out of this question?
I don't think you could tell them too much. For example, if you tell them exactly what companies are looking at you or what offers you have, they may know someone at that company who can say, nah, I don't know that guy. He doesn't have an offer with us. Right. Mm. Or they could say, you know what? Yeah. Okay. If he's messing with, JP Morgan Chase, I got to go talk to John over there in HR. If they really got an offer, I know I got to step up my offer for him, Or they could say, if it's a lower level company, they're like, we can get away with offering him a little less money. So they sizing you up. They're lining your pockets. So you got to be careful what you say in terms of, but. Mm-hmm.
So are you saying? So I guess with that, right? So are you saying that I guess really in response to this question, it's I really just started looking for a position, and I'm really interested in this company. You don't really want to say like, listen, I got 4 job offers on the table, or I've applied for 20 different other companies, and I've had 20 different other interviews that may be offering 20 different other positions. It's no, this is the interest. Mm-hmm. This is the organization that I'm interested in. It's the company that I'm interested in, and so I applied here because I feel this position was a good fit. And so I don't even know I don't even know if I would answer that question.
Got to tell them something. You got to tell them something, though. Got to, man. You can't leave it open ended. I mean, all right. So if someone asked me this question, honestly, I would just tell them like, hey, listen, I'm definitely taking my time, really interviewing companies. I want to see what's the best organizational fit for me as well. And then secondary to that is, the actual positional fit. So
Mm-hmm.
right now I have fielded some offers, right? There is some traction going on, but I'm really looking at, everything on the table. And I really want to, see what your company, value, how your company values me in terms of the role that you have open or something like that. I just keep
Mm-hmm.
it real. Like, yeah, I might have some offers and there might be some traction going on, but it's the reason why I'm here today too. It's the reason
Right.
why I'm really interested in why we're talking. I really want to see what's going on with this company because this is on the top of my list.
Right.
So
Right.
just flip it, a little bit. You can keep it 100, but it got to be a way where you're not giving out all of your details, right? Giving out all, you got to keep some things close to the chest, and I guess that's what they call leverage, if
Mm-hmm.
you will. So yeah,
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I
yeah,
think so. I think, once again, so yes, these were definitely some tough questions.
yeah,
You know, for from interviewers, but I think also too that the interviewers need to kind of keep in perspective that when you're asking these questions, there's so many boilerplate templates out there that I just see that really take the time to customize your interview questions. To
yes,
kind of get the answers that you really want to make sure that you're going to get the cultural fit that you need or the right fit that you need for your team or for your company, right?
yeah,
Don't just download some random sheet off of that was out in
yeah,
1995, off of the internet,
right,
to ask your questions because you want to make sure that you're as an employer that you are asking the right questions to you know not only build the best team but also maintain retention, right? Because you don't
yeah.
want a lot of employee turnover.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, this is a fun exercise. I think some of
Hmm.
these questions are ridiculous, but I do think that some of these questions, I do think some of these questions happen on the
Right.
low, and they probably shouldn't happen. But we want to make people on this channel, aware of anything that can be thrown at you. Just be quick on your toes, but you
That's
don't got to
right.
be in a rush. I think the legendary John Wooden, he said, "Be quick, but don't rush." Or
Mm.
be quick and don't be in a hurry. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? So there's a difference between being quick or in a hurry, right? It's a
Right.
difference. But you want to have a good pace. You don't want to seem rattled. This is all a test. Okay, this is
Hmm.
all a test. And the way that you can handle yourself, conduct yourself, could separate you from someone even better than what your answers could,
Right.
right? So it just depends on emotional intelligence you have. But
Definitely
yeah,
take time. Take your time to answer the question. You don't have to.
yeah,
You don't have to rush. And if you don't have an answer, listen. If you don't have an answer to a question, just say, "Listen, I don't have an answer for that right now," and
yeah.
get back to the individual. I
If
think they
all,
would appreciate
yeah.
it more if you actually got back to that person than just giving some a sloppy answer that really
Right.
doesn't address the question.
And as an ode to my old stomping grounds in the Bronx, despacito, slowly, you know what I'm saying? You don't got to go too fast, right? Take
Mm,
your time. That's the best thing I could say because interviews are super cage rattling, right? But they're
right.
even more rattling and make you nervous, if you already psych your mind out. Okay, that's
Yes.
basically what I have to say. Dunk, thank you so much for your candid answers, my friend. I like this different format today. It was really good.
Oh, definitely. And I guess that we are now a bilingual show. So if you can,
Yeah, don't let me get my Arabic on. I'm out here in
there we
Qatar.
go.
You know what I'm
That's
saying? Don't let me
right.
get my
Yes,
Arabic
sir.
on.
Yes, sir.
Indeed.
Appreciate you.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Well, we'd like to thank everyone for joining us for another Mailbox Monday. Thank you
Yes.
for taking the time out of your lunch. Join us
Hmm.
next Monday, 12 p.m. If you have a Mailbox Monday question that you want to ask us,
Yeah.
you could send us an email at mailboxmonday@mercercountyworks.com. We'll be sure to answer your Mailbox Monday question. So
Indeed.
until next time, we'll see you. Peace.